Welcome back. Once again, I want to continue with talking a little bit about some tools that can help you in your Bible study. So today we're going to continue with kind of the process of study. Last time we looked at some tools that can help you in reading your Bible. And today I want us to look at a few tools that can help us in some other steps in the process of studying a passage of the Bible. So, first of all, I want us to take a look at something that is called Bible Hub. So, BibleHub.com is the website that you can go to, and it has a number of tools here that will help us in our study of different passages in the Bible. So last time we were using 2 Corinthians chapter 3 as an example. So we'll go ahead and type that in up here at the top and hit enter. And you don't have to stay with this particular translation. You can come up here and there are these various translations available to you up at the top. So if we wanted the New American Standard, we could do that one, or the New King James that we've generally been using. But now, what if we want to start looking at some of these particular words? So we read through this last time, and if you remember the process of reading through a passage and to try to understand it, to try to study it, first of all, we try to read the whole book so that we have an idea of the context. What is this? What is the whole letter or whole book about, so that we can understand a particular part of it better? And then we go back and we read the context of the passage that we're looking at. Then we go back again and we start looking at some of the particular words that stand out, maybe highlighting those or underlining them or something, so that we can start noticing them throughout the passage. And especially if there are words that come up pretty often, we want to start looking at what is said about those words. But now, what if we want to actually understand a word a little bit better that's in the passage? Let's just take a word here that is used a bit, and that word is commend or commendation. All right, so we see that is used about 3 different times just in verse 1. Now we can click on the number of the verse here. We can click on the 1, and that takes us to a page that helps us study that particular verse. So over here on the left, we have many different translations of this particular verse. So that word commend and commendation, those things are pretty consistent throughout these different translations. It looks like that is in most of them. This one has recommendation. And so we can look through all of those. But if we go all the way down to the bottom, well, first of all, there are some commentaries, but we're not going to look at those yet. That's in another step of our study. First, we're just trying to understand it as well as we can for ourselves. All right, so you come down here and we find the different Greek words in this verse broken out for us. We have synistanin, which is to commend. So that's one of the words that we're looking at. And then when we go down here, we have letters of recommendation, which is systatikon. Systatikon. Okay. And I don't know how to pronounce these things properly, but anyway. So it's from a derivative of sunisteo, and it seems like that is pretty similar to this word up here. So we could click on this one to begin with. You already have a bit of the definition: to place together, commend, prove, exhibit. But if we click on where it says the Strong's number here, it will take us to a page that has all the different places that that word or some derivative of that word are used throughout the New Testament. Because this is Greek, so we're restricted to the New Testament. Here, if we were looking at a Hebrew word, it would be Old Testament that it would be looking at. But this is available. The same type of tool is available here for the Old Testament in Hebrew as well. Okay, so you can see how it's translated in different verses. This one's a little bit different. God demonstrates his own love, but it's a very, very similar word at least. Or it's a connected word. Our unrighteousness demonstrates the righteousness. And here it talks about two men standing with him, which is interesting. I'm not a Greek scholar. I can't tell you why it's translated differently in different places. Generally, it's just because of the context, just like we in our own different languages, different words can be translated differently depending on how they're used. But you can come up here to summary and get a little bit of another idea of this particular Greek word. So we have Strong's Concordance, which tells us that it means to commend, establish, stand near, or consist. We have again the Englishman's Concordance over here that we were just looking at, that has the different places that Greek word or a similar word that has the same root is used. We have Helps Word Studies. I don't know exactly who these people are. Discovery Bible. I don't know how good they are, but anyway, that's one of the tools that's on here. So he says that it's a union or together with, to stand, properly stand together, referring to facts lining up with each other to support or commend something. So the idea you get there is that when it talks about commending someone, it's like you're standing with them and saying that we support them in what they're doing. We believe that they are right. We're standing together with them. In the New American Standard Exhaustive Concordance, it says that the definition is to commend, establish, stand near, or consist, pretty much the same as Strong said. And then it tells you this is how it's translated in different places. Commend 3 times, commended 1, commending 3 times, commends 2 times, demonstrated 1 time, demonstrates 2 times, and so on. All right, and then you can keep going down. You have Thayer's Greek Lexicon. And a lexicon is essentially a dictionary, but based on the original language, so not current usage, which is what most of our dictionaries are doing. They're telling us how words are currently used, but this is telling us how the words were used back at the time this was written. And so Strong's and Thayer's, and there's a number of other lexicons, they look at the different ways that they were used in that time, and then they try to define it for us. And he also gives us a number of passages where it's used. I don't understand all of it. Now we get to the definitions: to place together, to set in the same place, to bring or band together. And then we have to set one with another. In other words, by way of presenting or introducing him. In other words, to commend. And it's used apparently in that way in these passages, and so on. So you can see, you can use this to try to understand the different ways this word is used and get maybe a clearer understanding of what it is trying to say. All right, so you can do that with different words. And if we go back then to the page for this particular verse, we can come down and if we see of recommendation, commendatory, introductory, let's click on that one and see if it's any different. This is the only place, apparently, according to the Englishman's Concordance, that this particular word is used in the Bible. So this letter of commendation, and we can click on summary again, and we can see properly what stands together, referring to a coherent endorsement or letter of commendation used only in 2 Corinthians 3:1. All right, and so you can see this is the only place it's used, but it's very similar to the other word in its meaning about standing together, commending, so making a recommendation. So this letter of commendation is like a letter of recommendation that people should listen to Paul. But his point is, if we go back to the chapter, do we begin again to commend ourselves? And do we have to stand by ourselves and support ourselves? Or do we need, as some others, epistles or letters of commendation to you or letters of commendation from you? He says, you don't need to have anybody recommend us to you. You know us. And we don't even need letters of commendation or recommendation from you, because he says, you are our epistle, right? You are our letter of commendation or recommendation. All right, so that's, you start maybe getting deeper into some of these, and that might not be a word that it helped you with much, but there are certain words that it can be helpful for. If we go down a bit and we want to maybe look at the word ministry. So in verse 7, he talks about the ministry of death. In verse 8, there's the ministry of the Spirit. Okay, well, what is that, or how is that word used in different places? So if we go all the way down on this page and we start finding the Greek word, so diakona, very similar to the word deacon, right? That they have the same root word. So service, ministration, waiting at table. So that's what ministry means. It's you're waiting on somebody's table, or you're attending them, serving them, and you can come over here and see how it's used in different places. So in Luke 10, verse 40, this, I believe, is talking about Martha. If we click on the verse, we can actually see it here in a different view. This is called the text analysis view. So here it says, but Martha was distracted about much service. And there's that word, diakonian, or service. All right. And we can go back, and so we can see that word is even talking about just serving people in your home. There is in Acts 1, verse 17, talking about Judas, the share in this ministry. So the apostleship. In Acts 1:25, this ministry and apostleship. So same context there. Acts chapter 6, talking about serving the widows, the daily serving of food, or the daily ministry or ministration, diaconia. Okay. It helps you just to see how it's used in different places. When they had fulfilled their mission or their ministry, the service that they have set out to do. All right. And so you can go through all these different uses of this word and just see if it helps you in understanding what it's talking about, if we come back over here, the ministry of death. So it's like it's serving us death. Something is serving death. And that is something that is written and engraved on stones, which we know is the Ten Commandments, which represents the law of Moses in general. All right. So these are some ways in which you can use Bible Hub to do a little bit of a deeper dive into the wording in the passage that you are looking at. All right, so let's talk about a couple of other tools that you can do very similar things with, although maybe they're not quite as useful, at least in my opinion, as Bible Hub. The first one that I want us to talk about is eSword. So you may have heard of eSword, and I want us to look real quick at just where you can get it. So you go to esword.net, and this is where you can download this particular program for your computer. So it's only for Windows here. So you click on that, and then you click this again to get the program downloaded, and then you run the installation. But you can get it for Android, the Mac, iPad, and the iPhone. But you do have to pay for all of those, I believe. The one for the PC, the Windows computer, is free. When we look at my particular installation of this, when you first install it, you're not going to have everything that I have. You're not going to have all these different translations up here, or all of these different commentaries over here, or the different word research tools down here. So you actually have to go up to the top, which you can't see in my screen recording for some reason, but in the menu, there is an option that says download, and you can select Bibles. The ones that have a blue link, you can click on it and it will install it for you. It will download it and install it. And so once you've installed it, you will have to restart the program. You can also do that with the commentaries and the dictionaries. A lot of what you were seeing there on Bible Hub are also available here. Okay, so we have then here in eSword, I've already installed these different translations of the Bible. And you can type in, you can select your book and chapter over here, but you can also just type in, so 2 Corinthians chapter 3, and hit enter, and here we go. We have it in the English Standard Version. I don't have the New King James in here because you have to pay for it, and I don't really need it in eSword. If we look here at the King James with the plus sign, it says it's with Strong's numbers. And so when we click on that, we see that the numbers for the Greek that these words are translated from are beside it. So we can hover over it and get a definition, or we can click on that number. And here we have it in Thayer. So to place together, to set in the same place, and all these things we already read. We have it in Mounce, where he says pretty much the same thing, but maybe worded a little bit differently. And we have it in Strong's. So you have those tools available on your computer offline. So if you don't have an internet connection, you can still use it on your computer if you have a desktop or laptop computer that you can put this on. All right, so that's all we have time for to look at today. But another very similar program you might want to look at is called The Word. It's also a free program, very similar to eSword. You might prefer it, or you might prefer eSword. But either way, they have mostly the same resources available to them, and they're both free. we'll just end this for now, and I hope that a look at these tools is helpful to you. Thanks a lot.